If you play video games to strengthen your problem-solving skills and to take down your friends and family once and for all, well then I have your back. I am the Game Collector and this is Second Opinion Games, and today I look at the import GameCube game, Nintendo Puzzle Collection.
Second Opinion Games.
The Nintendo Puzzle Collection was a budget game. In North America, it was canceled. However, in Japan, it came through, and many people just fell in love with it. Probably because it's 3 great Nintendo puzzle games all in one package, including Dr. Mario, which is where we're gonna start off. Now, everyone knows how to play Dr. Mario by now. You just keep on prescribing opioids until all of your problems just magically go away by throwing pills at viruses, making them explode into dust. Now, the single-player experience is just fine, but this game has a story mode, and at this point in time, I'm noticing that this is just Dr. Mario 64. They didn't really clean up any of the graphics whatsoever, which is probably a symptom of why this game stayed in Japan. However, that's not all Dr. Mario 64 had to offer. There is a time attack mode where you can race against the clock, trying to bust those viruses. But where the game really shines is the multiplayer. It's up to you and 3 of your friends to have an epic showdown to see who is the best pill popper. Well, it's probably not your lame cousin Susan, because she still pops tons of freaking pills, and she can't do anything to save her life. Even if just stop popping all the pills, Susan. That's how you save your freaking life. Stop taking all the pills. But eventually, you'll probably just play with yourself because absolutely no one wants to play you in a game that they can't figure out the menus. Yeah, they're all in Japanese, but they're really not that hard to figure out. Just freaking flip the controller all around like a drunken monkey and eventually you'll figure it out. It's not exactly brain surgery here. And Dr. Mario is a terrific experience, even if it is just Mario 64 rehashed on the GameCube. Seriously, they really didn't add in much of anything at all. It's just Dr. Mario, the same experience you already got on your Nintendo 64. Not that that's bad, it's just I was kind of hoping for something more on my GameCube. The next game we're going to talk about is Panel D Pong. Now, most people know this game as Tetris Attack, is where I first played it on the Super Nintendo, but you know what? This is another Japanese Nintendo 64 game that they converted over to the GameCube without really changing much of anything. However, I'm completely okay with that because this game is freaking unbelievably awesome. It is one of those tile flipping levels where you try to create combos and get a high score. However, there's also a brilliant story mode. I recommend try to get 4 of these little panels in a row and send some blocks over to your opponent. You'll find your way flying through the game rather quickly, and after about 10 minutes or so, I actually beat the game. It was over really that fast, and you can always play an opponent or friends and family. Chicks actually really dig this game, and it's probably not because of its super cutie atmosphere. It's just because girls like matching 3 things in a row and watching stuff flash on the screen. It's like freaking magic and marshmallows to them. Yeah, so if you have a good date night, this is definitely the game to break out. Also, there's a puzzle aspect to this game as well, where you could try to clear all these different missions. Now they're going to start off easy enough where you just have 1 shot to clear all the panels in the level. And eventually you'll get 2 and then 3 and 4, and soon you'll realize that this is super complex and really difficult. But it will keep your brain stimulated for quite some time. Honestly, Panel D Pong is great, and if I didn't already have it on this, I would be tracking down the Nintendo 64 version right freaking now. Then we have, lastly, Yoshi's Cookie, a game that was pretty darn good on the Super Nintendo, and you know what? I think this is pretty much a direct port of the Super Nintendo version of the game. You know what? All three of these games are really good, but honestly, I think that this is the #1 reason why it stayed in Japan. Nintendo really wanted to show what their new hardware can do, and they have 2 Nintendo 64 games on here and 1 Super Nintendo game. And that really doesn't exactly scream quality new gameplay on the Nintendo GameCube. But Yoshi's Cookie is great. Super easy to learn, but really, really difficult to master. Where I really like playing this game is the story mode. Even if I don't understand anything that's going on here, because it's all in not Japanese, it's just weird letters and stuff, and you see the characters hopping around like crazy. Eventually you'll come down to Bowser himself, where you get into an epic fight with him. I really had to test my skills to be able to crush this evil lizard. But eventually I did, and wouldn't you know it, it turned out to entirely be a play. That's a really big F you right in your face. And on top of it, it also turns out to be all a dream, as an extra big F you in your face. Yoshi's Cookie is my favorite game on this list to play by myself, because I simply love it. You know what? There's just one more little thing to talk about here. The game in Japan came bundled with a Game Boy Advance link cable. Now, you might think that this will let you use your Game Boy Advance as a controller, but no, it's actually a little download station. You could hook up your GameCube or your Game Boy Advance through this link cable and then play different versions of the games you just played. Now, on my screen, it looks absolutely horrible. On the Game Boy Advance, it doesn't look that bad, but if you're playing on a TV, it just hurts my eyes. Look at Dr. Mario here. It just is painful to watch and painful to play. It's mostly painful to watch because I'm really not the best Dr. Mario player, and you'll probably even screaming at me as you watch me put these pieces down. And, you know, quite frankly, when I rewatch it, I scream at myself too. Also, Penalty Pong looks horrible on the screen as well, but on the Game Boy Advance still looks actually really good and completely playable. And it stays on your Game Boy Advance or your GameCube until you turn it off. So just leave them on all the time. However, Yoshi's Cookie looks like the Game Boy Color version of this game. Yeah, they couldn't even make it anything better than that. Holy crap, this looks horrible. You know what? The regular Nintendo version doesn't look this bad, but it looks just unplayable. Now, I did play the crap out of it on the Game Boy Advance, and you know what? I still have to say, this one is just embarrassing to look at. So what I think of Nintendo Puzzle Collection? Well, the graphics are last gen. And by that, I mean Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo last gen. But honestly, being a huge retro gamer, that is completely fine with me. The sound effects are all decent, and the language barrier isn't super difficult. On top of it, chicks really love this game. Every time I break it out at parties, everyone just goes wild for it. Whether playing Dr. Mario, of course that's a great time, or just going head-to-head with Penalty Pong. You know what? Good times are had by all. So, I personally think this is actually the best multiplayer experience outside of Mario Kart on the Nintendo GameCube. But of course, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this review. I had a great time making it. And you know what? One of the craziest reasons I started this channel was to review GameCube import games. No one else was doing it, and I knew that I absolutely had to. So if you want to check out some of my older reviews, check those out. And also, don't be afraid to check out my top 10 GameCube import list. I guarantee you it is the best one on YouTube, because it's the only one. So until later, I'll see you again, guys.